The prince married her to save his kingdom, but she saved his soul. Do you know what the most painful thing is? Having a heart, but not being able to feel. This is the story of a prince whose heart had turned to stone and a princess who taught him how to be human again. It started as a political marriage, but it ended in true love. His name was Kian, Prince Kian, 26 years old, heir to the kingdom of the Northern Mountains. People called him the Ice Prince, not because of his beauty, but because of his cold heart. Kian never smiled, never laughed, never felt. But it wasn't always like that. 10 years ago, he was different. There was a girl, Elana, his first love, his only love. They were going to be married, but the day before the wedding, Elana was poisoned, a political conspiracy, an act of revenge. She died in Kian's arms, and with her, Kian's heart died too. From that day on, he swore, "I will never love anyone again." He closed his heart, buried his emotions, and became an empty shell. Now, 10 years later, his kingdom was in danger. War threatened at the borders. Famine loomed over the people. His ministers said, "Prince, we need an alliance. You must marry the southern kingdom." Kian replied without emotion, "Fine." No questions, no hesitation, just a decision, a deal. In the southern kingdom, there was a princess. Her name was Elana, Princess Elana, 23 years old. She was kind, gentle, full of light. When she was told, "You are to marry Prince Kian," she asked softly, "What is he like?" "Powerful, handsome, but what?" "People say he doesn't have a heart." Elana smiled. "Everyone has a heart," she said. "Maybe his is just hidden." The wedding day arrived. 2 kingdoms celebrated, but the bride and groom stood in silence. When Kian first saw Elana, he felt nothing, just another alliance, another transaction. But when Elana looked into Kian's eyes, she saw it, an emptiness, deep, endless. That night when they were alone, Kian said coldly, "This is only a contract. Don't expect emotions from me." Elana asked quietly, "Why?" "Because love is weakness." She shook her head gently. "No, love is strength." "You don't understand," he replied and walked away. Elana stood alone in the quiet room, but she did not give up. The next day, Kian was working in his study when Elana entered. "May I sit with you?" "Why?" he replied without looking up. "Because we are husband and wife." "On paper." She smiled softly. "Then let's begin beyond the paper." Kian glanced at her briefly. "I don't want to waste your time. My time is mine, and I choose to spend it with you." She sat down quietly with a book. Days passed. Elana came every day. Sometimes she spoke. Sometimes she simply sat in silence. Kian never encouraged her, but he never pushed her away either. And slowly, he began to notice her presence. It was calm, peaceful, different. One evening, Kian stood alone on the balcony. Elana joined him. "You're quieter than usual," she said softly. Silence. "You know, silence also speaks." "What does it say?" he asked coldly. "That there is something inside you, something you're afraid to show." "There is nothing inside me," he said sharply. "Then why are you afraid?" He turned suddenly. "I'm not afraid." She met his gaze. "You are." One night, the palace was attacked. Assassins stormed the halls. Kian fought fiercely. Then he heard a scream. "Elana!" For the first time in 10 years, something moved inside his chest. Fear. He ran towards her chambers. An assassin had cornered Elana. Without thinking, Kian stepped between them. The sword struck his shoulder. He collapsed, but managed to kill the attacker. Elana rushed to him. "Kian, why did you do that?" He winced in pain. I don't know. You could have died. He looked into her eyes, and for the first time in a decade, he felt something. I didn't want to lose you. Tears filled Elana's eyes. But I am just a contract. He lifted his trembling hand and touched her face. No, you are not. The wound was deep. Kian developed a fever. For 3 days, Elana stayed beside him, holding his hand, praying. On the 3rd day, he opened his eyes. You're still here? He whispered. She smiled, exhausted but warm. Where else would I be? I treated you coldly. You saved my life. He hesitated. I'm afraid. Of what? That if I love again, I will lose again. She squeezed his hand. Loving carries the risk of loss, but not loving means never truly living. Tears slipped from Kian's eyes, his first tears in 10 years. I don't know how to love anymore, he admitted. She smiled gently. I'll teach you. In the months that followed, something changed. Kian began walking with her in the gardens. He listened when she spoke, and sometimes he smiled. One day, Elana asked softly, "What were you like before?" He was silent for a long moment. Then, for the first time, he told her about Alira, about love, about loss. Elana listened without jealousy, without interruption. When he finished, she held his hand. You lost her, she said gently, but that doesn't mean you cannot love again. And if I lose you, he whispered, then at least we will have lived while we had each other. He looked into her eyes and finally said the words he once swore never to say again. I love you. Tears shimmered in her eyes. I love you too. They embraced, 2 broken souls finding wholeness in each other. Years later, the people would say, Prince Kian has changed. He smiles now. He laughs. And when someone once asked him, what changed you? Kian looked at Elana and replied, I learned the difference between surviving and living. Kian married to save his kingdom, but Elana saved his soul. She taught him, having a heart is not weakness, refusing to use it is. And slowly the ice melted, the stone softened, and a dead heart began to beat again. So, let me ask you, has your heart turned to stone? Have you decided, I will never love again, I will never feel, I will never let anyone in? Remember this, a heart that stops feeling is not alive, but even a frozen heart can thaw. Sometimes all it takes is one person, because loving is dangerous, but not loving is not living. Life is not about breathing, it is about feeling. And when you feel, you are truly alive. If this story touched your heart, like, share, and subscribe for more stories that touch the soul. See you in the next story.
Please subscribe to my channel. It would mean so much to me. Thank you for your support.